You're listening to The Rant.
Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God.
I am Kamala Harris. My pronouns are she and her. I am a woman sitting at the table wearing a blue suit.
You're listening.
So the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway.
You fucking crazy, man. You sound insane. Do you realize that?
To The Rant.
I speak jive.
Oh, good.
I've been saying it. I've been saying it for 10 damn years. Ain't I been saying it, Miguel? Huh? I've been saying it.
You're listening to The Rant with David King.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Rant. I'm your host, David King. It is good to be back after a long 2-month hiatus. Yeah, I know I've been gone for 2 months. You probably were wondering where I went. I apologize for that. A lot went on this summer. We are now in September. It is September the 4th. As I'm recording this podcast. And it's been about 2 months since we did the last one, and that was a really cool one with Tina about the NSNG diet. I hope to get her back on soon. That'd be a lot of fun. I actually would like to know where she's at. I think she ended up going more carnivore, which is perfectly fine. I'm all for it. I'm kind of quasi-carnivore myself. So 2 months, just so much happened. Kind of things slow down in the summer for me anyway, because it's the summertime. You go out and spend time with family and, you know, you do your things, go on vacations, all that good stuff. Didn't go anywhere. Didn't do anything. But the house had a flood. That was fun. That was in July. It's hard to believe that my house flooded in July because it's now September 4th and I still have yet to fix it. So we had a huge flood in the house. Unfortunately, flood in the bathroom, took out the master bathroom, part of the master bedroom, then everything below. So it was like the den, laundry room, all that stuff. I didn't think it was going to be a huge deal, but then when Circling, shout out to them, not sponsor of this, they should be though. They came out and they dried us in and it was pretty bad. There was just a ton of water between the first floor ceiling and obviously the second story floor. So in that cavity, tons and tons and tons of water. It's amazing to me. You know, I worked in the restoration business, doing the post construction restoration. We would come in after everything was dried out and tore out. The insurance company came and we'd come in and put it all back together. That was our job, my job. And it never really ceased to amaze me how much damage water can do so quickly in a home. It's just unbelievable. It just moves so fast. And it just, of course, seems like everything in your house wants to suck up water like a sponge. So, yeah, it's September 4th and it's still all gutted because of the ridiculous process that is insurance. And again, I shouldn't be surprised because I've worked with insurance companies for the last 5 or 6 years. And needless to say, it took them, we filed the claim the day it happened. It took them a week to get out here. And then when they did come out, the insurance adjuster, she's great. Great lady. She's a sweetheart. Real knowledgeable, real easy to work with. She was willing to go over everything and talk about it. And I could express concerns about coverages and things. And she was more than willing to talk to me about it. And wasn't, you know, some adjusters can be real standoffish. I don't know why. I know they deal with like, you know, pesky contractors and stuff. And us contractors, we've dealt with pesky insurance agents. So it's kind of like full circle. But She was great. But unfortunately, she was like, hey, look, I'm going to try to get this done before the end of the week because if I don't, you're not going to get this adjustment for another week because I'm going out of town. And she didn't get it done. So we had to wait another week to even get the approved scope of work from the insurance company, which is never right. And it wasn't. It's missing line items and things like that. And so then, of course, they approve it, but then they have to mail you a check. And then the check has to come in. But here's the deal. The check will have, if your house has a mortgage, which ours does, they'll include the mortgage company on the check. So the check has to be endorsed by the mortgage company. So I have to overnight that to the mortgage company for them to endorse it and then mail it back to me. Well, it's now September 4th and the check is still not here. Probably will be here next week. But needless to say, like, thank God it was just the bathroom and part of the master bedroom. I mean, there's a big hole in my ceiling where I watch television, but that's not a big deal, right? The laundry room is completely opened up and gutted. I can see right into the laundry room. Not a big deal. It's still livable, but just like, thank God. It wasn't worse because I have gone into people's homes where they're like ranch style home on, slab on grade, ranch style house, no basements, all just concrete there with the floor, and the entire house flooded. They were gone on vacation, a pipe broke or something. They came home and the water was ankle deep in every room of the house and it was unlivable. I cannot imagine being a month into the process of dealing with all the red tape and paperwork and not being able to live in my house. I just couldn't imagine it. So that's part of what we're dealing with. Another thing that I have had to deal with in July was in July I got notice that I will have to vacate my shop because my friend who owns it wanted to use it for something else, which is entirely his right. It's his building. I rent it from him. I pay him a monthly rate. Whatever. If he wants to use it for something else, it's fine. The only downfall was he said, you got to be out by September. So I was scrambling all month long trying to figure out what we're going to do. We're going to go out in town. The woodworking business it's good. I don't think it's good enough. It's been kind of slow this year. It started off really, really good at the beginning of the year, and then it's kind of just been real flatlined. And I don't know if it's the economy. I don't know what it is. I think people are kind of clutching their purses a little bit with everything that's going on with inflation and whatnot. But needless to say, it's been okay. It's not been great. But it's not enough for me to justify going out and renting a commercial space in town at, $2-3 a square foot. And it's like $2-3 grand a month. That's ridiculous. Can't do it. So we were trying to figure that out. And now we were planning on doing an addition on the back of the house. We're planning on doing a garage. I'm going to build a garage on my house because my house had a garage, but we closed it off because it was so small. It wasn't a proper garage at all. It was kind of a joke. It's like a garage for a Mini Cooper, I always jokingly said, or maybe a crossover if you're lucky. But we closed that off and turned it into an office space. And now I'm going to put a proper garage on the back of the house. And we'd be dealing with the paperwork for that. Of course, the city is getting involved, and we got to do the permit processing, and there's variances, and you got to do all this, blah, 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 blah. What should have taken about a week in terms of like going to the city and getting a permit is now taken 3 or 4 weeks because they just keep asking for more information. And of course, you can't reach anybody at the city. I live in a very small city. It should be very easy to reach the planning and development person, but he's never at his desk. He never answers his phone. So if they need something and I don't know exactly what it is they're looking for, I have to constantly call, and then eventually they get back to me. I submitted the paperwork and it took them a week to get back to tell me, oh, you're missing two documents. So I was like, oh, great. Thanks for waiting a week to let me know. So it's just one of those things. So that's what I've been dealing with. And honestly, I've had some other stuff with the media company. Took a golf trip at the end of July too. I went to Firestone Country Club. I'll talk about that on the other podcast. If you don't know, I have a new podcast in conjunction with a YouTube channel that I'm developing called Golf King, where I review and play on different golf courses throughout the country. But yeah, I'm really, really excited about the Golf King podcast. It's something that I'm pretty passionate about. I love golf. I obviously don't play it professionally. Wish I did. But I'm passionate about it, and I'm really excited about, getting into the news and reviewing equipment, reviewing courses and stuff. So again, there'll be more information about that later on. But I'm glad to be back. I'm hoping to start doing this podcast again more regularly. I apologize. I know there's a lot of people who download this show and listen to it, and I'm sure they're expecting to hear from me, and then they don't, and I apologize for that. But we will try to keep doing this show more regularly. So I don't want to do this. It's not really look, I would love to come onto the rant and talk about stuff that first and foremost, I only ever talk about things that I'm passionate about. This show is a show where I can come on here and just talk about whatever, but it's generally going to be something that I like, something I'm interested in, something that I care about. That's usually what this show is. And that could be anything. It could be movies, sports, news, health, whatever. Lately, it's been a lot of health, and a couple of reviews in there too. So I would much rather avoid talking about politics. I really would. But I feel too strongly about what is going on. Excuse me. What is going on to ignore it? We're in a really weird time. It seems to me that, and honestly, I could be way off on this, and I might be. Comment to me. Hit me up on my email. The rant, davidking.therant@gmail.com. Let me know your opinion on this, because I would really like to know. It's, I feel like since 9/11, things have never really quite been the same. And maybe it goes further back than that. Maybe it goes back to like the impeachment of Bill Clinton. Politics used to be, you went after the guy's policies. You attacked your opponent on their policy, their ideas, and if need be, the ever so low hanging fruit of you went after something they did, right? Maybe they had an affair. Maybe they had a cocaine problem, right? Or an embezzlement or something. Maybe they broke the law. You'd go after that. You'd find that kind of dirt, and it was, you go after that. Look what this guy did. He lied, or he, those are kind of common. But no matter what, it always kind of stayed. The crosshairs always stayed on the opponent. It never went to anyone else. It was usually pretty. You could kind of almost count on what was going to be said, how it was going to be said. You could always say like the Democrat, like I remember growing up and hearing like the Democrats are for the working man and the blue collar and the union. They care about the working man. While the Republicans only care about the rich and the businesses, and they're looking out for the interest of corporate America. That was always the kind of talking points I would hear in my house. Now, granted, I grew up in a very blue collar house for a long time. All registered Democrats that voted for Clinton, union workers at Ford Motor Company. Ironically, all of them are Republican now. Funny how that works out. But those were like the things you'd hear, and you could kind of, it was like clockwork how campaigns would go. But, lately, and as I've gotten older, and it seems like everything is more polarizing. There's more attacks on individuals who have nothing to do with the campaign, the voters. The media has a very strong bias. Look, Fox News has their bias. It's very clear. They're very much on the right side of everything. And all the other mainstream media is very much on the left. But they're getting so entrenched into their camps. And I get concerned because I go, is there ever going to be a moment where someone at CNN can be honest with us and can be real and say, no, that's wrong. And likewise at Fox. I don't know if we'll ever get to that anymore. We keep going further and further and further down that really kind of dark tribal path. And it's concerning. And to add to that, the speech of Joe Biden just the other day in Philadelphia, I think really is the pinnacle of where we're at in terms of politics and society. Now, I know, and you know, that most of Americans, genuinely, we're all getting along just fine. Now, what we discuss in our homes and the things that concern us, that's probably differs from our neighbor, but I think most of us will walk out our front door tomorrow and we'll see our neighbors, we'll smile, we'll wave. We may even share a hot dog or two because tomorrow is Labor Day. Who knows? But we're not at each other's throats. You know, we're not putting up our flags and telling everyone to stay on your side of the lawn. You know what I mean? I think as a majority, America is that way. I think America is still pretty civil. But there are certainly radical sides of each base. Now, which side's more dangerous? I would say as of right now, I think the more dangerous side is the far left. Now, you can say, of course you did, Dave. Listen, I have more evidence to believe that Antifa, BLM, and people on the far left are much more dangerous than extreme right Republican conservatives. And it's just look at the track record, right? Look at the stats. And you'll see that there's far more violence, far more riots, looting, billions of dollars of damage committed by groups like Antifa and BLM. And you have one of the biggest protests for, I guess, MAGA conservatives, which would be January 6th. That was pretty serious. But that was one isolated event of 150 people or more or so at the actual Capitol versus all of 2020 in the summer, cities burning to the ground. We have seen not only 2020 riots, but then you have all the protests from the time Trump was elected until 2020. You had protesters vandalizing cars, throwing frozen water bottles at cops, screaming, fry them up like bacon, oink, to the police officers. Screaming off the top of their lungs, just going absolutely crazy because this guy got elected. Now, listen, I'm as upset when Biden got elected, but, the majority of my base was upset. And we'll get into this here in a minute, but yeah, they were upset, but we weren't burning down and looting because of it. Yeah, the Capitol thing, the January 6th is one thing, but I just, so there are those camps, right? Those are the extremes, okay? Whether you think one is worse than the other or not, that's up to you. It's your opinion. I personally think the ones on the left are the worst right now. Does that mean that, they're the small minority of conservatives that had, for instance, been at January 6th? Could that get worse? Sure, absolutely. But Biden's speech, and then the rest of us are here in the middle, just trying to figure it out, trying to wonder, what's happening, right? We're all sitting here going, I turn on the news and I see this city's on fire. I turn on the news and my president is telling me that I'm a fascist. I don't feel like a fascist. I love this country. I love my neighbors. My neighbors are great people. I don't feel like a fascist, but I'm being told I am. You might be a Democrat and you turn on the news and you see, you see liberals protesting and there's buildings on fire. Okay. You may agree with it, you may not. But then you see the president, the guy you voted for, telling you that MAGA Republicans are the biggest threat to democracy and we got to fight them. And so you go, well, my neighbor's a Republican. He's got a Trump flag out there and him and I play golf. Wait a minute. Am I being told that he's the biggest threat to democracy? And so you're scratching your head going, is he the biggest threat to democracy? I'm not too sure. That's confusing. And if you have any sense about you and any level of intelligence, you'll probably go, he's not the threat at all. Like, he's a great guy. Him and I don't agree on politics, but he's a good guy. We all both agree to live and let live, and blah, blah, blah. And we'll go cancel each other's votes out in November. But then there's the people who aren't as rational. And I feel like my fear is that the group of irrational is getting bigger, and it's being fueled by the media, politicians on both sides, pegging each other against one another. And so that is a huge concern. And this speech from Joe Biden reaffirms that, because all he is doing, and we'll get into it right now, we're going to break this speech down. He is trying to peg people against one another. I know what he thinks in his mind he's doing. He's thinking, oh, I'm garnering up votes for November. I'm trying to rally my base to go out and vote for our party. But really what you're doing is you're freaking the hell out of people, and the people who are already radical, you're further radicalizing them. And there's going to be other folks that are going to slowly start to migrate towards that camp because they're going to be afraid. Because for the last 5-6 years, y'all can't keep Trump's name out of your mouth, and you keep stoking this fire of Trump is a Russian, spy. He colludes with Russia. He's big with Russia. He hates America. None of that's ever been true. There's never been any evidence. All the stuff that they've given to us has been a lie. The dossier was a lie. They did a huge investigation, spent tons of government taxpayer dollars, only to find out none of it was real. There was no evidence of collusion with Russia. There was no evidence that Trump had any connections with Russia other than he was going to open a hotel over there. Trump has hotels all over the world. But yeah, so we'll get into it right now. I don't want to talk about stuff like this. I would rather talk about college football. And I think I will. This week, we're going to talk about college football. College football kicked off yesterday. It was amazing. Saw the rankings. I know the AP rankings don't mean anything, but holy hell, what upside down world did I wake up in? We'll talk more about that this week. You bet your butt, because I couldn't believe it. I'm not even a Georgia fan, and I was like, that's a slap in the face to Georgia to get ranked at that. But I digress. I don't want to chase those rabbits. We'll talk about that this week. We're back, baby. The rant is back. Absolutely. So, here is the Biden speech. You may have seen it. You may not have heard it. But we're going to play it, and we're going to break it down right now. So here's the opening. This is what Biden had to say the other day in Philadelphia. Roll cut 5.
My fellow Americans, please, if you have a seat,
get this man some water.
I speak to you tonight from sacred ground in America. Independence Hall in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This is where America made its Declaration of Independence to the world more than 2 centuries ago, with an idea unique among nations, that in America, we're all created equal. This is where the United States Constitution was written and debated. This is where we set in motion the most extraordinary experiment of self-government the world has ever known. With 3 simple words: we the people. We the people.
The people.
These 2 documents and the ideas they embody, equality and democracy, are the rock upon which this nation is built. They're how we became the greatest nation on earth.
Already off to a good start. This is a good start to any speech, because he has not told a lie here.
They're why, for more than 2 centuries, America has been a beacon to the world. But as I stand here tonight,
this is where it goes off the rails.
Equality and democracy are under assault. We do ourselves no favor to pretend otherwise.
Now, you're going to hear all this, and you're going to think he must be talking about China, Russia. He may even bring up he might even bring up Al Qaeda for old time's sake, right? Because that would make sense. Because who's threatening us? Who's doing who's waging war in Europe right now? Or Ukraine? Who is right now putting drones over Taiwan? So you might think he's gonna say China, but you will be surprised.
So tonight, I've come to this place where it all began to speak as plainly as I can to the nation about the threats we face, about the power we have in our own hands to meet these threats, and about the incredible future that lies in front of us if only we choose it. We must never forget, we the people are the true heirs of the American experiment that began more than 2 centuries ago. We the people have burning inside of each of us the flame of liberty that was lit here at Independence Hall. A flame that lit our way through abolition, the Civil War, suffrage, the Great Depression, world wars, civil rights. That sacred flame still burns.
So far, so good on the speech. I'm going to give him credit where credit's due. This is good because he's not lying. He's telling the truth. We're doing good so far. Good job, Joe Biden. You're right. Because of the Constitution of the United States, because of that beautiful sacred document that is one of the most perfect constitutions ever, we have been able to do all of those things. Overcome slavery, overcome prejudice, overcome Nazi warlord dictators, and defeat them on the beaches of Normandy. We have made a country where every man, woman, child of every color, race, creed can come in here and can work hard and can find their own success. We've done that. You're absolutely 100% correct. Thank you, President Joe Biden, for acknowledging that. So far, so good. I'm liking this speech. I'm actually okay with this. Let's keep going.
Now in our time, as we build an America that is more prosperous, free, and just, that is the work of my presidency, a mission I believe in with my whole soul. But first,
I don't know about that.
We must be honest with each other and with ourselves. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal.
I agree. I definitely agree. The last 3 years have been quite strange.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism.
Oh, what?
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, and there he goes. Right there. Boom. I thought maybe he was going to mention China and their information war, their propaganda war, and all their tech war that they've been waging on us, and Russia. No. Russia causing a war in Ukraine, which is causing, shortages throughout the world for energy, especially in Europe. Nope. What does he say? He says the freaking name he cannot get out of his mouth. 2 years into his presidency, he's still talking about Donald Trump, which, by the way, who has no authority, no power, nothing. He can do absolutely nothing but go to do a rally in Alabama. That is all he can do. He can go to Alabama and rally, but he can't make policy. You can, Joe Biden. And for the last 2 years, all you've done is go Trump, 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 MAGA, MAGA, MAGA. Let's hear what he has to say. Ugh.
That threatens the very foundations of our republic. Now, I want to be very clear.
Yeah,
very clear
the applause
up front.
of the fascists.
Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans.
So wait.
Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology.
So the biggest threat facing the United States today is Trump and the MAGA Republicans. But, they're not the majority, though. They're not even all Republicans. It's not even the majority. So which is it? You're telling me a small group? I'm sorry, I hate to say this, but 79 million people. What was it? Trump got like 78 million votes, 79, something like that, almost 80 million votes. So almost 80 million Americans, over half of America, Joe Biden is saying right now in his speech, I don't care. He's going, not all Republicans are bad. He's talking about a few of the Liz Cheneys and the Mitt Romneys. He's talking about the rhinos, the people that do not have our interests at heart. He's talking about the people that are more than happy to align with the other side and distance themselves from whatever Donald Trump says, no matter what it is, doesn't matter. But he is saying that half of this country is a threat to democracy. Half of this country is dangerous and wants to undo. Now, just for the record, a few days prior to that, he was calling us all fascists or semi-fascists, whatever the hell that means. So this is what I've been talking about. What do you think that this is going to do? This will do nothing but enrage the Antifas, those people who are already just already full rage mode. This is just going to amplify that. But it's going to start to move other folks into that camp, because what you're doing is you're saying, hey, you see those folks over there? They're extremely dangerous and they want to take away your freedom. You know, he never gives any good examples of it. He never does. He never gives an exact example. He uses blanket statements like fascism, wants to take away your right to vote. How? Nobody wants to take away your right to vote. Keep rolling.
I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans.
Liz Cheney,
But
the
there's
only
no
one
question.
who, by the way, lost her
The
election.
Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country. These are hard things. But I'm an American president, not a president of red America, blue America, but of all America.
As long as you vote for me and you agree with what I have to say, I'm a president for you.
And I believe it's my duty to level with you, to tell the truth, no matter how difficult, no matter how painful. And here, in my view, is what is true.
In his view.
MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. They refuse to accept the results of a free election.
Still talking about that. First and foremost, I consider myself a MAGA Republican. Do you know why? Because I voted for Donald Trump, and I actually agree with a lot of things that Donald Trump says. I don't agree with everything he does. Don't agree with everything he says. I have my own brain. I can walk and chew bubble gum. I can look at something and go, I like that, but I don't like that. Right? And I think you do too. You're smart. The people who listen to this show and the people that I associate myself with, they're all very intelligent people. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that the people waving their American flags at a Trump rally are extreme constitutionalists. In fact, it's not the majority of them would probably call themselves a constitutionalist before they call themselves a Republican or even a conservative. A lot of these people will say, this is what I believe in, and it's the founding fathers' these documents, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution. These are the things that I look at, and that is my ethos. So to sit here and say that we are and again, he doesn't give an example. He never will. And if you push on his press secretary for an example, she'll dodge the question. She'll tell you that we're violent, but they can't give you an example of violence except for January 6th, which was a small isolated event. You have to remember, I'll get into it more, and then of course he goes directly into the election. Again, we're 2 years into this. And let me tell you something. Fine. You want to be hung up on the fact that Trump thinks the election was stolen and a lot of his supporters agree? Fine. You could be hung up on that and say it's not good for democracy, even though we're a constitutional republic. You can say that. But here's the thing. You have to be fair. You have to go after Stacey Abrams, because Stacey Abrams, who ran for governor of Georgia, to this day will tell you that she is the actual governor and the election was stolen from her, even though it's been proven already that it wasn't. She did not get enough votes, and there was no way she was going to get enough votes to change it. And so, but she gets applauded, and everyone, and CNN and MSNBC and ABC and CBS or whoever, NPR, all bring her on and parade her as some victim who was, who was a victim of voter oppression, and she should be the governor, and that's fine. But if Trump says it, this is violence. It is violence and anti-constitutional, and they're fascists, and they don't believe in the electoral process. It's ridiculous. And so it's easy to pick apart. It's easy to see it's all BS. And here we go. We're off the rails. And all Biden has done so far is he's inciting violence. I'll continue.
And they're working right now, as I speak, in state after state, to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies, empowering election deniers to undermine democracy itself.
No, he's not. No, we're not.
MAGA forces.
There's no laws that have been passed to do that. There's nothing. The laws they passed in Georgia have not restricted the ability to vote. It just restricts the ability to. Actually, it really doesn't restrict anything. What it's done is it makes it easier for them to monitor votes and ballots, because what we had was a system of mail-in ballots that could not be verified properly. Do you really think? I mean, let's face it, there were stories of people who were getting ballots, mail-in ballots mailed to their home that they never requested. People were saying it all the time. Do you really think? And I'm not saying that that's led to Trump's loss. I'm simply saying that there's clearly things that need to be fixed, and that's what this law has addressed. Nobody has lost the ability to vote. No one has been told you can't come out and vote. Everyone has the ability to go stand in line and vote. They still have absentee ballots. They still have other ways of getting to the polls. It has not been. These are talking points with no facts to back them up. They have not given us any examples of how this oppresses anyone. What's hilarious about it is it's always the minority. It's like, oh, Georgia passes restrictive voting laws that affect minorities. Why is it only minorities that are affected by these laws? Why is it that mail-in ballots, the restriction on mail-in voting, only affects minorities? Are minorities unable to get to the polls? If so, then why? Why can't they get to the poll? Is there not a bus? Is there not an Uber, taxi? Do they not own a vehicle? Can they not ride a bike, walk, carpool? Are you telling me there's absolutely physically no way that these people can get to their local poll and vote? And if so, why? It doesn't make sense. And when you press them on that, if you ask the simple question of why is it that minorities are being affected by these voting restrictions, which are not voting restrictions, but these voting laws that help to better monitor absentee voting, why does it affect them the most? Why does it not affect white folks? It doesn't. They can't give you a reason. We don't know. It's just the way it is. Why? There's no proof. There's no proof at it at all. In fact, I think more people voted. Georgia changed their laws, and they had record voting turnout in the last primary, if I'm not mistaken. So that goes counter to what they have to say. Continue.
Are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love. They promote authoritarian leaders, and they fan the flames of political violence.
This is projection on an epic scale. Yes, we want to take away your right to an abortion. You're absolutely 100% right, because an abortion is murder, and I've did a whole podcast on it. You can go back and listen to it. But we don't want to tell you who you can and can't marry. We have no interest in invading your privacy. In fact, it can be said that it's the opposite. Under Biden, the federal government has expanded and grown. He just added 80,000 IRS agents. Who do you think those agents are for? Do you think it's for the 1%? The 1% of the mega wealthy, the ones that he says he wants to go after? That's not that many people. You don't need 80,000 new agents to do that. No, my friend. They're coming for us. You, the Democrat, me, the constitutionalist. They're coming for all of us. All of us blue collar, everyday workers. They're coming for us. They've spy on us. They've already been caught doing that. So this is projecting. No, we have no interest in it. Continue.
That are a threat to our personal rights, to the pursuit of justice, to the rule of law, to the very soul of this country.
This is coming from the guy that weaponized the FBI and raided Trump's residence in Mar-a-Lago. This is a guy that is in a party that has weaponized all branches of the government against their opponents. People being arrested without, or being searched without warrant. No warrant presented until after the fact. Yeah. And yet we're being told we're the ones who don't want to follow the rule of law. We're the ones who want to follow. Oh, by the way, open borders. Biden's America. Just come right on in. Who cares about don't need to worry about immigration law. Who cares we don't need to monitor who's coming and going into our country. Never mind the fact that there's record fentanyl deaths in this country. And where is it coming from? The southern border. So he's trying to tell you that Trump and his supporters don't believe in the law, while he is single-handedly not following the law. And he is weaponizing the federal government against his opponents. So again, projecting. He's very, very good at it. The problem is most of us can read right through the BS.
They look at the mob that stormed the United States Capitol on January 6th, brutally attacking law enforcement, not as insurrectionists who placed a dagger at the throat of our democracy, but they look at them as patriots. And they see their MAGA failure to stop a peaceful transfer of power after the 2020 election as preparation for the 2022 and 2024 elections. They tried everything last time to nullify the votes of 81 million people. This time, they're determined to succeed in thwarting the will of the people. That's why respected conservatives like Federal Circuit Court Judge Michael Ludwig has called Trump and the extreme MAGA Republicans, quote, a clear and present danger to our democracy.
First of all, I can tell you that even people who don't like Trump on the conservative side of things, and people who do like Trump, nobody liked January 6th. We all hated it. We wish it never happened. And I don't think that speaks for our side of the party. Beyond the people that went into the Capitol that day, everything else was very legal. The protests, the rally that happened outside in the mall was legal. The objection at the counting of vote, what's it called? My brain's freezing up. Where they certify the votes. You're allowed to object. That is legal through the Constitution. And the Republicans, the representatives were doing that. That's perfectly acceptable. I think they should have investigated it. Here's my thing. If, in fact, there was no crimes committed, no fraud committed, why not do the investigation? What's it going to hurt? They didn't want to do it. They pushed it right into the ground. They wanted to bury this thing, call everybody conspiracy theorists, call them insurrectionists, which is ridiculous. It was never an insurrection. You had a bunch of people doing selfies and FaceTiming, walking through the Capitol, and there was probably a handful that were acting out in such a way where they had one window break, they broke one window, and then one of them got shot in the neck and died. So, I get it. January 6th is a bad look. It's not good. But beyond that, there's no other example. And so yeah, you could quote a judge who says, you know, Trump and the MAGA people are a danger to democracy. Okay. That means very little to me. Just because a judge says it, it must be true. Can you give me an example of how the majority, can you give me an example of how 78 million Americans are dangerous to democracy without talking about January 6th or quoting a judge that nobody's ever heard of? Can you? I don't think you can. But I'll continue as you continue to alienate and segregate and pin people against one another in this fantastic political speech of yours.
But while the threat to American democracy is real, I want to say as clearly as we can.
Oh, it's real. It's just not.
We are not powerless.
Anybody in America.
In the face of these threats. We are not bystanders in this ongoing attack on democracy. There are far more Americans from every background and belief who reject the extreme MAGA ideology than those that accept it. And folks, it's within our power, it's in our hands, yours and mine, to stop the assault on American democracy.
See, the verbiage he's using there is dangerous because he's calling it an assault on democracy. And so what does that sound like to you? When someone says assault, it sounds like violence. It sounds like someone's physically or violently trying to upend something. And he goes, it's in our power to stop this assault on democracy. Nobody's assaulting democracy. If you're calling the fact that Trump is gathering up hundreds of thousands of people at rallies to vote for him an assault on democracy, it's absurd. Make no mistake, folks. 2 years into this presidency, never in the history of any president, or Bush, Obama, Clinton, at least in my lifetime, 2 years in, you're still talking about the guy you beat. You say you beat him, 81 million votes, you beat him. Move on. Why are you still talking about him? There hasn't been a violent protest. There hasn't been a riot. There hasn't been an attack. Nothing from any conservative, Republican, Trump supporter, non-Trump supporter, anyone on that side of the aisle. There has been absolutely nothing from anyone. Yeah, a few states came back in and said, we need to readjust our election laws because, yeah, we saw some things that we're concerned about, and so we need to change it. Nobody is being told they can't vote. Everybody's being afforded the opportunity to vote, and everybody's vote will be casted and counted. This is Joe Biden scared to death, and along with other Democrats, they are scared that Donald Trump is going to run again in 2024, and he's going to win. That is what is happening here. And they are doing everything in their power to try and stop that. But the problem is they are causing they're creating more damage with this sort of rhetoric than they are actually helping themselves. This is not going to save Joe Biden. If Joe Biden wants to save Joe Biden, he needs to fix inflation. He needs to fix the border. He needs to fix this economy. It's that simple. But he's too busy worrying about MAGA Republicans than to focus on the actual issues that Americans care about. The fact that every time you go to the grocery store, you're spending $10 to $20 more, and it just keeps going up and up. And oh, by the way, you haven't gotten a raise and you're not due for one, so what do? This is not what he's not interested in solving the problems and saving his party. He's not. He's not going to do it. Not like this. And he's going to create more division amongst the people in the United States that doesn't need to happen. The people that are in the middle, like all of us, you and I, the ones that just sit here in the middle looking at the media and looking at the president, looking at all these politicians scratch their head going, what they're telling me is not my reality here. However, I am paying more for goods, there's shortages, and the crime's going up. So, Hey, can we deal with that? Oh, you don't want to talk about that. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to elect somebody who does want to talk about it. But they just keep beating into your head. Oh, that guy over there, he's your enemy. He's trying to take away everything you have in your freedom. What do you think that's going to do? You don't think that's going to incite violence? You want to talk about someone who's inciting violence? I've never heard Trump ever incite violence like that against anybody. Give me an example. You can comment to me. I would love to know.
I believe America is at an inflection point.
I agree with that.
One of those moments that determine the shape of everything that's to come after.
He's absolutely correct.
And now, America must choose to move forward or to move backwards, to build a future.
No, Americans must choose if they want to continue to elect people who are willing to use you as a pawn for their own political gain, which is what Biden, Democrats, and Republicans have all been doing for the last 20 years. And they further peg you against your neighbor, who, by the way, you get along with now, but if they had it their way, they're just going to get you to fight with each other. It's what they want. You can either choose that, or we can choose to fire all these idiots, vote in some better people, and try to save this country and realize that we're all Americans. We all want the same thing, right? And come together under that and stop going at each other's throats. That's what matters. That's what this election, that's what this is all about. This is the future of this country. That's what these primaries are about. Do we want more inflation, more spending, costs of goods to go up? Do we want that? Do we want more crime? Do we want more rhetoric that's going to peg us against one another? Or do we want to get back on track and focus on making this country greater for our next generation? Set our kids up and our kids' kids up for success instead of failure, instead of loading them up with more debt that they'll never be able to pay back. That's what's on the ballot. That's what you need to think about. And if that means you don't vote for a Republican, then don't vote for one. Or don't vote for a Democrat. Fine. If that means, hey, neither of these guys are any damn good, we need to find something that is. Get involved.
We're obsessed about the past. To be a nation of hope and unity and optimism, or a nation of fear, division, and of darkness.
Who is spreading the fear, division, and darkness? You are, Joe Biden. He's literally saying, you can choose my path, which is the path of light, or you could choose the path of darkness and division and fear. The only one preaching that right now is you, behind your blood red backdrop. You look like the fascist, and you're calling us the fascist. It literally looks like something out of a 1984 film or V for Vendetta. It's ridiculous. I don't know how anybody buys this. I'd like to think that nobody is, because he's got like a 30-some-odd% approval rating.
MAGA Republicans have made their choice. They embrace anger. They thrive on chaos. They live not in the light of truth, but in the shadow of lies.
Yes, we thrive on darkness.
Together we can choose a different path.
We thrive on darkness.
We can choose a better path.
We thrive on darkness as we go to our jobs and pay our taxes and support our families and go grocery shopping and try to get our kids through college. And yes, but we thrive on chaos and darkness. Us folks that go to church on Sunday and pray to our God and have our nice set of rules to limit the chaos in our life. Yes, we're the ones. Except here we are now dealing with a president who can't tell you what a woman is, and an administration who can't tell you what a man or a woman is. They want to use whatever pronouns anyone decides to make up, which makes things extremely convoluted. You go up to somebody and you say, "Hey, excuse me, ma'am," and she goes, "How dare you call me ma'am? My proper pronouns are they. That is violence against me." And you go, "I'm sorry, I had no idea," because there's all these new rules and it's chaotic and people are freaking out, and that is their world. You could say what you want. You could say, "Well, David, nobody's acting like that out in town." And that may be true. Where you live at, you may not be dealing with that. I don't deal with it either. I don't meet people who go by different pronouns or who would correct me if I called them by the wrong gender. I've not met anybody like that. But the problem is the President of the United States and his administration, the people who are in front of the TV all the time, are trying to tell you that this is how it's going to be. But that causes a lot of chaos and a lot of confusion. Words matter. So the guy who's trying to tell you that the party of chaos and darkness is trying to take away what I'm doing when he's the one who's actually creating the chaos and darkness, his policies, his executive actions, the rhetoric, everything about what they have done has caused chaos. That is why his approval rating is in the low 30s, is why everybody's so angry and frustrated right now and going like, what the hell's going on? Why is DC so out of touch?
Forward to the future. A future of possibility, a future to build and dream and hope. And we're on that path moving ahead.
I hope so.
I know this
I really
nation.
hope we are.
I know you, the American people. I know your courage. I know your hearts. And I know our history.
And I'm willing to exploit all of it for my own monetary gain.
This is a nation that honors our Constitution. We do not reject it. This is a nation that believes in the rule of law. We do not repudiate it. This is a nation that respects free and fair elections. We honor the will of the people. We do not deny it.
That's true. I agree.
And this is a nation that rejects violence as a political tool. We do not encourage violence.
I agree.
We are still an America that believes in honesty and decency and respect for others. Patriotism.
Respect for others as you're literally calling like half the nation fascists. Okay. And by the way, if he's going to hold the MAGA people to the flame of being violent, will he not do the same for Antifa and BLM? I have a feeling he won't.
Liberty, justice for all, hope, possibilities. We are still at our core a democracy. And yet, history tells us that blind loyalty to a single leader and a willingness to engage in political violence is fatal to democracy. For a long time,
there's none of that going on. Absolutely none of that going on. Nobody is engaging in political violence for Donald Trump. Nobody. Can you give me an example, please? It would be really nice if in your speech slandering a whole half of the United States, you could at least give a couple examples. And I don't mean just saying January 6th, because that's not an example of political violence. It's really not, because most of the people, even the people that went into that Capitol, were not violent. By the way, some of the people that were caught rioting inside the Capitol and trying to break through doors, guess what? They were Antifa Black Lives Matter people. Yeah, infiltrated. So again, that's like one small example, but give us something else. 20 or 30 people, really? That's what's threatening America? Come on, man.
we've told ourselves that American democracy is guaranteed, but it's not.
That is very true.
We have to defend it.
Yes, we do.
Protect it.
Yep.
Stand up for it.
Yep.
Each and every one of us.
Yep. And we do that by
That's
voting
why
you
tonight,
out.
I'm asking our nation to come together, unite behind the single purpose of defending our democracy regardless of your ideology. We're all called by duty and conscience to confront extremists who put their own pursuit of power above all else.
So you,
Democrats, independents, mainstream Republicans.
you and the other politicians that have been in DC for like 40 or 50 years and have become millionaires and have made deals with foreign adversaries, and it's so bloody obvious. Yeah, you people, you mean you're the ones?
We must be stronger, more determined, and more committed to saving American democracy than MAGA Republicans are to destroying American democracy.
Yeah, he's basically saying you need to vote. You need to get rid of me and my constituents. We need to be voted out because we're the ones who are screwing all this up.
We, the people, will not let anyone or anything tear us apart. Today, there are dangers around us we cannot allow to prevail. We hear, you've heard it, more and more talk about violence. as an acceptable political tool in this country.
I haven't heard that.
It's not. It can never be an acceptable tool. So I want to say this plain and simple. There is no place for political violence in America, period. None, ever.
Good. Then I hope you hold your people accountable when they uprise and riot when they lose in the
We
primaries.
saw law enforcement brutally attacked on January the 6th. We've seen election officials, poll workers, many of them volunteers of both parties, subject to intimidation and death threats. And can you believe it? FBI agents, just doing their job as directed, facing threats to their own lives from their own fellow citizens. On top of that, there are public figures today, yesterday, and the day before predicting and all but calling for mass violence and rioting in the streets.
I haven't heard
This
any
is
of that.
inflammatory. It's dangerous. It's against the rule of law. And we, the people, must say, this is not who we are.
Who are we, Joe? Tell us.
Ladies and gentlemen, we can't be pro-insurrectionist and pro-American. They're incompatible. We can't allow violence to be
Well,
normalized in this country. It's wrong.
Technically, in the Constitution, it says the people have the right to overthrow their government if it becomes tyrannical. So technically speaking, that is kind of the backbone. That is kind of American. Saying, I don't like the way you're treating me. I'm getting rid of you. So in a way, it's kind of wrong. But I'm not advocating that, so don't quote me on that. So I know. Got a sound bite. Here we go.
We each have to reject political violence with all the moral clarity and conviction this nation can muster. Now,
And you won't.
we can't let the integrity of our elections be undermined, for that is a path to chaos.
Much
Look,
like the
I know
last 2 years.
politics can be fierce and mean and nasty in America. I get it. I believe in the give and take of politics, in disagreement and debate and dissent. We're a big, complicated country. But democracy endures only if we, the people, respect the guardrails of the republic. Only if we, the people, accept the results of free and fair elections. Only if we, the people, see politics not as total war, but mediation of our differences. Democracy.
I agree with that. That's a really good part of the speech for him. Like really good. And that's what I'm saying. Like that right there. Like if he could stay on that, he would not mention like MAGA or Trump. He would probably, this speech might have been better. It would have been better received. I don't know, like if he did a line of coke or if they just shot him with something before he went out and did the speech, but he's very energetic. And I give him credit. Like that part right there is good.
Cannot survive.
I agree with everything he just said there. Like that is how it should be.
When one side believes there are only two outcomes to an election, either they win or they were cheated.
That has literally been the Democratic Party up until recently. Literally. Trump was the first one to say, I was cheated out of the election. And listen, there was some evidence there where you were like, well, there was certainly tomfoolery. I don't know if it would change the outcome of the election. And I think the thing that frustrated the most for all of us was that there was nobody willing to investigate it, except for a very small group of individuals. Even Fox News was like, we're not touching this. Why? You know what I mean? Here's my thing. Wouldn't you want to prove that the Alex Joneses and the Rudy Giuliani's and all these conservatives and these lawyers that were coming out with all this evidence, wouldn't you love to prove that they're all full of shit? Instead of just being like, you're a conspiracy theorist, go away. Isn't that kind of like, wouldn't they would love to prove that? You would think.
And that's where the MAGA Republicans are today.
Yeah. Once again, he went there. It's like, come on, man.
They don't understand what every patriotic American knows. You can't love your country only when you win.
That's not.
It's fundamental.
We still love our country. That's why we're draped in the American flag and chanting USA while your group is dressed in all black and burning down buildings and calling for the death of cops. So, I mean, you know, I think you can't really say that. That's not the truth there, Joe.
American democracy only works only if we choose to respect the rule of law and the institutions that were set up in this chamber behind me. Only if we respect our legitimate political differences. I will not stand by and watch. I will not, the will of the American people, be overturned by wild conspiracy theories and baseless evidence-free claims of fraud. I will not stand by and watch elections in this country.
I will not stand by and let an investigation occur that could have shown that I lost this election. There, I fixed it.
Stolen by people who simply refuse to accept that they lost.
2 years, guys. We're 2 years past the election, and look what he's still talking about. Nobody cares. You know what we're focused on? Do you know what the MAGAs are focused on? We're focused on winning the next election. That's it. We don't care anymore about the previous election. It's over. We're 2 years past it. We know we're not going back down that road. So guess what? We're all waiting to see what Trump does. Is he going to run again? Some of us are okay with that. Some of us don't want him to run again. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people who love Donald Trump, who support Donald Trump, but don't want him to run for president. It's not as cut and dry as Joe's making it out to be. But we're not hung up over the election anymore. Sure, if you ask us, we'll probably talk about it with you. But I got over it 6 months, a month after it happened. I was like, oh, well, here we go. We just got to ride it out until the next election because that's what we do. And you know what? You know, we fought with our vote. We voted in the primaries. That's where we fought. We went to the polls, and people in Georgia, they voted. They spoke up with their vote, and they listened. Because the people of Georgia said, listen, we know that there was some tomfoolery. There was some stuff going on, and we don't like it, and we want you guys to better secure this election, to the election process. We want to know that the ballots are counted, that no secret ballots are implemented. There's no containers being pulled out from underneath the table at 3 o'clock in the morning when everybody's asleep. We don't want that nonsense. So, yes, we questioned it. Yes, we investigated it. We tried to challenge it. It failed. But guess what? We moved on. The only group that hasn't moved on from the 2020 election are the Democrats. And quite frankly, you would think that they would try to just focus on the problems, but they aren't. So, continue. It's such a joke.
I will not stand by and watch the most fundamental freedom in this country, the freedom to vote, and have your vote counted and be taken from you and the American people. Look.
Make no mistake. And I'm calling it right now. It's September 4th, 5:25 p.m. They're going to use, if they lose these next elections, they're going to turn around and say they lost it because Republicans changed the laws and restricted the vote. I guarantee it. They're going to use the same thing as we did. They may even try to do an investigation. Now, the beauty of it is they'll have everybody on their side to do the investigation, so it will occur. There will be an investigation. It'll probably take a year or two. Nothing will come of it, and we'll continue on, and they'll pound the drum that there's voter fraud or voter suppression. That's what they'll say, because you can't really necessarily prove voter suppression, but they will say this is voter suppression. That's why we lost. It wasn't because we are absolutely terrible at our jobs and as politicians, and everyone's mad at us because we've run this country into the ground. Has nothing to do with that. That in a short 2 years, we've managed to screw everything up. Nothing to do with that. They will say it has something to do with election suppression. I guarantee it. Watch. Because he's doing it now. I won't stand by and let these people suppress votes. They're setting it up. It's classic. It's classic a Democratic move.
As your president, I will defend our democracy with every fiber of my being, and I'm asking every American to join me.
Terrifying to think about. It's terrifying to think that a geriatric old man is going to stand up for democracy. I wouldn't trust you to wipe your own ass, Joe.
Throughout our history, America has often made the greatest progress coming out of some of our darkest moments, like you're hearing that bullhorn.
Yeah, there are people heckling.
I believe we can and must do that again. And we are. MAGA Republicans look at America and see carnage and darkness and despair. They spread fear and lies. Lies told for profit and power. But I see a different America.
This is the beauty of it. So for the last 2 years, they're actually back to when Trump got elected. You know, he's saying that all we push is fear and hate and darkness. What is Trump's main talking points have always been? Whether you love him or hate him, this is exactly what he says, and you can't deny it. America first, lower taxes, bring jobs back to Americans, good paying jobs back to Americans, lower their taxes, make America great again. That's what the MAGA stands for. Make America great again by putting America first. Don't send billions of dollars to Ukraine when your own people are suffering, when people are having a hard time paying their bills or having a hard time finding a good paying job, or the infrastructure in this country is a mess because you have neglected it. And you could say, yeah, we're going to cover all that. But the reality is it's like, yeah, you're going to spend more money on infrastructure and still send billions of dollars to Ukraine. Why not just take the billions of dollars from Ukraine and put it back into the United States? That's always been the policy of Trump. That's why he got elected. He got elected because he looked at the people and said, I'm going to put you first. And that's what's most important. And that's what he did. And people love that. That's why he got 78, 79 million votes. And somehow the geriatric old man who ran his campaign from his basement and barely spoke, and his rallies were, you know, 1% the size of what Trump's were, somehow managed to get more votes than Barack Obama. Okay, fine, fair enough. I believe it. Sure. So, no, and then what have we heard from the Democrats since Trump got elected? It's always been doom and gloom. It's always been Trump's dealing with Russia. He's selling secrets. Look what he's doing to minorities. He hates Mexicans. He hates these people. He's trying to put you back in chains. That's what Biden said. He's trying to put you back in chains. And then since Biden's been elected, look how it's been. It's been a constant attack on the to people on the right. That we're the ones who are the violent extremists. You know, it's always been negative coming out of the White House. And yet they're trying to say that we're the negative ones. It's like, no, we're the ones who are seeing what's going on. We're calling you out because you're doing a really bad job, but we still love this country. We still love its people, and we want to do everything that's best for them. That's what we want. We want what's best for the American people, period.
An America with an unlimited future. An America that's about to take off. I hope you see it as well. Just look around. I believe we could lift America from the depths of COVID. So we passed the largest economic recovery package since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And today, America's economy is faster, stronger than any other advanced nation in the world. We have more to go. I believe we could build a better America. So we passed the biggest infrastructure investment since President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And we've now embarked on a decade of rebuilding the nation's roads, bridges, highways, ports, water systems, high-speed internet, railroads.
That's good. I hope that's true.
I believe we could make America.
But the problem is like I've said just a second ago, you can do all that and that's fine, but you need to stop sending money to other countries. You need to stop spending money in places where it shouldn't be spent. I'm perfectly fine with the federal government spending money on federal roads, highways, and infrastructure. That's perfectly acceptable. But the issue I have, especially because of inflation, you're only making it worse. So stop sending, because I just read the other day, I think it was 2 days ago, they're sending another $14 billion to Ukraine. And he wants to spend $300 billion on student loan debt. On student loan debt. Are you kidding me? So no, that's bad. It's not going to get much better. Sorry.
America safer. So we passed the most significant gun safety law since President Clinton.
No,
I believe.
No, he didn't. The funny thing is they really didn't pass anything significant. They expanded a background check rule. I saw it. I saw the rules. Most of what they've done isn't going to do much to stop anything. If he really wants to thwart crime, they'll fund the police. They'll give that $14 billion that they gave to Ukraine. They'll give it to the police in this country. That would really actually do something to thwart crime, because the reality of it is crime is it's astronomically off the charts right now in all the major cities, New York, Chicago, in Texas, California, Los Angeles. These cities and states are having record numbers of crime. Louisiana, in New Orleans, it is so bad. The carjackings, the violence. There's kids walking around with AK-47s in the street. So for him to say like, oh well, we just passed a bill that's going to really thwart crime, like we're really cracking down on crime, that's a lie. It's a lie, because you haven't cracked down on crime. Crime's gotten worse. And your gun control bill is going to do very little to control gun ownership. It's going to do very little to stop crime. It's not going to stop crime at all, actually. I would bet I'd bet all my paychecks on it won't stop crime, because it hasn't yet. All it's going to do is make it more difficult for, say, someone like me or you, a law-abiding citizen, to purchase a firearm. Other than that, it's not going to do anything to stop crime. There's no proof it will or has. And in fact, the statistics show it hasn't. It's made it worse.
We could go from being the highest cost of prescriptions in the world to making prescription drugs and healthcare more affordable. So we passed the most significant healthcare reform since President Obama signed the Affordable Care Act. And I believe we could create a clean energy future and save the planet. So we passed the most important climate initiative ever.
Which, by the way, article came out the other day. California passed a bill that stated that no gasoline engines cars will be sold by 2035. Everything will be electric. And then literally in the same day, they make an announcement for people not to charge their vehicles at home because it's straining the power grid. Holy hell, what upside down world did we wake up in?
Cynics and the critics tell us nothing can get done, but they're wrong. There is not a single thing America cannot do, not a single thing beyond our capacity if we do it together.
I agree with that.
It's never easy, but we're proving that America, no matter how long the road, progress does come.
Yeah, that's true. Hopefully good progress.
Look, I know the last few years have been tough, but today, COVID no longer controls our lives. More Americans are working.
Magically, COVID no longer controls our lives 3 months before the primary.
Working than ever. Businesses are growing. Our schools are open. Millions of Americans have been lifted out of poverty. Millions of veterans once exposed to toxic burn pits will now get what they deserve for their families and the compensation.
That's good. I agree. I think that's great.
American manufacturers come alive across the heartland, and the future will be made in America.
That's literally a Trump talking point. Like Trump was bringing companies back into the United States for manufacturing in the United States. That is literally what he did. And in fact, a lot of his executive actions, Donald Trump renegotiated the NAFTA deal to make it better for America. And he did that. And no other president had done that. So that is a campaign slogan that he has pulled from the guy he cannot stop talking about and hates.
No matter what the white supremacists and the extremists say.
What are they saying?
I made a bet.
Who are these white supremacists and extremists saying? Is there a white supremacist group out there right now screaming that everything should be made in China? I mean, honestly, is there?
Bet on you, the American people, and that bet is paying off, proving that from darkness, the darkness of Charlottesville, of COVID, of gun violence, of insurrection, we can see the light. Light is...
What about the darkness of the 2020 summer riots from BLM and Antifa? All the people killed, beaten, stores robbed, the billions of dollars of damage. You notice he doesn't mention that. I guess that's okay.
It's now visible.
And by the way, the gun violence was not committed by one political side or the other. The gun violence was committed just by some psychopaths. They most of them, the last two for sure, if I can remember, hated both sides of the party, of the aisle rather. So that wasn't a politically motivated thing, but he's trying to make it sound like that's a MAGA thing.
Light that will guide us forward, not only in words, but in actions. Actions for you, for your children, for your grandchildren, for America. Even in this moment, with all the challenges we face, I give you my word as a Biden, I've never been more optimistic about America's future. Not because of me, but because of who you are. We're going to end cancer as we know it. Mark my words. We're going to create millions of new...
I doubt anybody's going to be ending cancer with the American diet that we are on. Oh, and by the way, that Beyond Meat stuff that they want to push, yeah, that's definitely going to cause a lot of cancer.
Jobs in a clean energy economy. We're going to think big. We're going to make the 21st century another American century because the world needs us to.
I agree.
That's where we need to focus our energy.
I agree.
Not in the past.
Yep.
Not on divisive.
Not in the past. Not on the 2020 election.
Culture wars. Not on the politics of grievance, but on a future we can build together. The MAGA Republicans believe that for them to succeed, everyone else has to fail.
That's not true. Just you, Joe.
They believe America is not like I believe about America. I believe America is big enough for all of us to succeed.
I think
that
we do
is
too.
the nation we're building, a nation where no one is left behind. I ran for president because I believe we're in a battle for the soul of this nation. I still believe that to be true. I believe the soul is the breath, the life, and the essence of who we are. The soul is what makes us, us. The soul of America is defined by the sacred proposition that all are created equal in the image of God, that all are entitled to be treated with decency, dignity, and respect, that all deserve justice and a shot at lives of prosperity and consequence, and that democracy must be defended, for democracy makes all these things possible.
See, I agree with that. And I think that's that was a good little speech right there. If he could, again, leave the MAGA people out of his mouth, but that was good.
Folks, and it's up to us. Democracy begins and will be preserved in we, the people's habits of the heart, in our character, optimism that is tested yet endures, courage that digs deep when we need it, empathy that fuels democracy, the willingness to see each other not as enemies but as fellow Americans. Look, our democracy isn't perfect. It always has been. Notwithstanding those folks you hear on the other side there.
Those folks are about as loud as the crowd cheering for me.
They're entitled to be outrageous. This is a democracy.
Don't worry. I'm going to sick the FBI and the IRS on them.
But history and common sense.
Oh, yes. Now it's okay to have free speech.
Good manners is nothing they've ever suffered from.
Yeah.
But history and common sense tell us that opportunity, liberty, and justice for all are most likely to come to pass in a democracy. We have never fully realized
Keep in mind, everybody, we are a constitutional republic, but that's not the point here. Let's just keep going.
the aspirations of our founding, but every generation has opened those doors a little bit wider to include more people who have been excluded before. My fellow Americans, America is an idea, the most powerful idea in the history of the world, and it beats in the hearts of the people of this country. It beats in all our hearts. It unites America. It is the American creed, the idea that America guarantees that everyone be treated with dignity. It gives hate no safe harbor. It installs in everyone the belief that no matter where you start in life, there's nothing you can't achieve. That's who we are.
I agree.
That's what we stand for.
See, this is good. This is good campaign speech right here so far. You know what I mean? Those points are all right on track. Very, very good.
That's what we believe. And that's precisely what we're doing. Opening doors, creating possibilities, focusing on the future. And we're only just beginning.
I wish that were true.
Our task is to make our nation free and fair, just and strong, noble and whole. And this work is the work of democracy, the work of this generation. It is the work of our time, for all time. We can't afford to leave anyone on the sidelines. We need everyone to do their part. So speak up, speak out, get engaged, vote, vote, vote. And if we do our duty in 2022 and beyond, then ages still to come will say, we, all of us here, we kept the faith. We preserved democracy. We heeded our worst. We heeded not our worst instincts, but our better angels. We proved for all its imperfections.
I don't know what I'm saying.
America is still the beacon to the world, an ideal to be realized, a promise to be kept. There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred, nothing more American. That's our soul. That's who we truly are. And that's who we must always be. I have no doubt, none, that this is who we will be, and that we'll come together as a nation that will secure our democracy, that for the next 200 years, we'll have what we had the past 200 years, the greatest nation on the face of the earth. We just need to remember who we are. We are the United States of America, the United States of America. And may God protect our nation, and may God protect all those.
Okay. I wanted to let him finish out because I generally think that the very tail end of his speech, that last minute or two, was actually a really good speech from any president, because what he said is true. It does. It takes all of us to stand up. It takes all of us to roll up our sleeves and get to work and vote and do our part to make this country better. It's very true. And he could have had a really good speech had he had not gotten so divisive. It's funny because he talks about how divisive the MAGA people are, but then his whole speech was doing the exact same thing. That last 2 minutes, and there were portions of that speech throughout that were actually quite good. Would have been a great campaign speech. They'll make for good sound bites for the Democrat Party. There's no doubt about that. Had he had done that and excluded all the wartime rhetoric, it literally sounds like he's calling to go to fight the Republicans that support Trump. He's calling for a fight against them. It almost sounds like he's calling for civil war. Had he avoided that, I think he would have had a great speech. I think that it would have been very hard for the media to criticize it. They may have made a comment about the backdrop, which is fair enough, but that would have probably been all they had to say. But of course, he didn't. He didn't write the speech. I know he didn't write it. His speechwriter did. Some SJW over there probably did it. But nonetheless, Well, there you have it. And like I said in the beginning of the show, the top of the show, the beginning, rather earlier, the bottom, top, bottom, I don't know how that rhetoric works. It doesn't matter. The fact is, like I said previously, we're in a position right now in this country where we have the majority who's still in the middle of common sense, decency, and civility. And then we have these groups on each side that are kind of growing. And they're growing in their own way, right? Because you have some that are very, very violent. And then you have some that are just really outspoken, loud, and they're closed off. They're not willing to hear anymore. Now, those groups are on both sides. I think there's more violence on the left just because of the track record. I stand by that. I don't think January 6th trumps, sorry for the lack of a better term, no pun intended, I don't think it trumps what happened on the Trump election and then the 2020 election. I don't think it overshadows that at all. There was tons of violence, cop cars burning, windows being broken, people screaming. It needs to end. We need to stop with this. I think it's only going to get worse if Donald Trump probably does get elected, because the media is going to look. The media wants it. The media wants him to be reelected because the media needs the ratings. Nobody wants to hear about him anymore, which is why CNN, MSNBC, CBS, and NPR's ratings are all through the tank. And it's one of the reasons why CNN is going on a firing spree, getting rid of everybody, because these people who are shot callers for the Democrat Party are no longer bringing in the ratings because nobody wants to hear it anymore. Nobody wants to hear you talk about Donald Trump and the MAGA Republican people that follow him, because they're not the problem. The problem is the policies being made in Washington, D.C. The problem lies there, not in a guy who's down in Mar-a-Lago playing golf on the weekends who has no ability to make policy whatsoever. He doesn't decide where the $300 billion of student loan debt goes. He doesn't make that policy. And Americans know that. So this speech is dangerous. It's unfortunate. It could have been something really, really great for him, and it ended up being something really, really, really bad. And I hope that people will just ignore it and not become politically violent from it, because the way he spoke in both breaths, he basically says, wage war on these people, but don't get violent. There's people who can read between the lines there, but lately it seems like a lot of folks on his side aren't doing that. So I just find it fascinating too that Democrats are always allowed to call for violence against Republicans. But if a Republican says fight like hell or this is war, it's immediately he's turned into a criminal, and people are calling for his head and for him to go to prison. It's just insanity. So come this election, I think we're going to find out what happens. I don't think this speech does him any good. I think it rallies his base, but they're already rallied. And his base is 30%. As of right now, because his approval rating is trash, and it did not get better after that speech. I can promise you that. Well, let's pull it up, actually. Let's see. Joe Biden approval. Let's see if I get an honest answer. Okay. Wow, 53% of people disapprove of him. Ooh. It's not good. His rating is, it's been down, and it continues to go down. Ugh. Anywho, that is that. Like I said, folks, I would rather come on here and talk about anything else. But when you have a president who goes on to TV, and thankfully only 2 news companies covered it because CNN didn't even cover it. But he goes on there and he calls for physical violence against a group of people, because that's basically what he was doing. He was calling for us. He's calling people who support Trump essentially terrorists against America. That can't be allowed to fly. He needs to be held accountable for that. And I hope that come election he does, and he gets fired. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, it was good to be back. 2-month hiatus. I hope to be back here very soon. We're going to talk about some college football. That is something I'd rather talk about. That is something that we can all disagree on and argue until we're blue in the face about whose team's better. And you know what? We can all go back in front of the TV and keep watching football. Nobody's going to wring each other's necks. That's the beauty of college football. It's the beauty of sports. We can all disagree. We can all fight about whose team's the best, what player had the best record, blah, 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 who's the greatest, who's the GOAT. That's what I want to talk about. I'm tired of these politics. I'm tired of this divisiveness. It's no good for anybody. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you later this week. Goodbye.